Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the 11 a.m. Monday morning marketing webcast. I promised you another fantastic show. Hope your weekend was absolutely stupendous. Thank you for joining me this morning. We will be taking questions as they come up in chat, hopefully, and you can also use the email address as well. But we are discussing today the manufacturing brand marketing, right? Developing a more formal strategy to beat the competition and close more business. Believe it or not, I was updating this literally like 45 seconds ago. So that is how new this information is. I keep thinking about new innovative things to be integrating into it, but we want to keep it simple yet, right? So without that further ado, we often, when it comes to B2B, manufacturing market, or even just marketing in general for B2Bs, we often use or depend so heavily on word of mouth and referrals. And that is a tremendous, it's a blessing, but it can also be one of those fail points because at the end of the day, we can only reach so many people with those methods. So what we're going to be talking about today is just how to actually kind of build that into a normal strategy and program, right? So what is it anyway? Like when we talk about manufacturing brand marketing, even brand marketing for B2Bs, we want to talk about it is, I'm defining it as the financial, technical, or human resources invested in order to bolster company visibility and reputation in a market. So it's financial, meaning you're willing to spend some money to do it. It's technical, meaning you can use systems, processes, techniques, software, and human resources. That means bodies actually doing some of the work. So you need pretty much all three of those. And in many cases, we see a lot of components, a lot of B2B marketing ends up being where we're focusing on one specific thing, but we may miss some of those foundational pieces that are really required to go ahead and be successful, and then to continue to repeat that over and over again. So why is it important, right? The idea here is, you can only reach so many people having a great product using word of mouth, right? And being able to ask for referrals and things like that. So when it comes down to it, brand recognition versus brand differentiation, those two terms are often used, interchangeably. And they're really not actually, because brand recognition are really kind of like the characteristics of the company. They kind of live and breathe the organization, right? Beyond just the element of very small consistency or time perspective. So thinking about things like Bose, I'm thinking of Apple, I'm thinking of Audi, I'm thinking of, Tesla, these kind of brands that, basically they live and breathe a concept, right? It doesn't have to be those specific companies. It'd be like schools, like Raymond James, a financial advisor company, or Edward Jones Investments. I think about unique kind of clients I've worked with before, or Harvard, or can't remember. University of Southern California, right, for video production, those kind of things, right, in that market, just real powerhouses. Well, differentiation, though, is what makes you different as it relates to that competitive environment at the time, like right now, and it relates to addressing the customer's actual situation, their problems, their pain. And I think the brand that I can think of right off the top of my head that I see all the time on commercials is that brand called Flex Seal, right? With that really sticky stuff that you can just slap on, pipes and things like that stop the leaking. And he has the bottom boat that's actually made out of this stuff, right? So he's actually skimming along the water to kind of prove his point of strength and then water tightness. So I think of that differentiation, that brand differentiation, kind of making it directly into the product attributes and the overall brand itself. Why do you do this, right? It's emotional connection. We need that, whether it's a B2C or a B2B, these are still people behind the scenes. We need to make sure that we're actually going ahead and solving the problems and the pain, or helping the end result customer accomplish that goal to fix or solve that problem. That's how we make things, that's how we make magic happen, right? So it's that emotional connection. In fact, if you think about, like a trailer company that we represent, a trailer company has the best warranty out of any other trailer manufacturer around, okay? Well, they need to be shouting that from the mountaintops. Well, a warranty is important, but let's unpack that for just a minute. when a trailer has a warranty, what that means is they trust that thing to stay together, right? To perform well for extended periods of time, assuming more than the competition, right? So what kind of things there? What kind of things are there in terms of brand attributes that are important? So like in this case here, the emotional connection is rust. They have one of the best paint processes around. You see those big trailer trucks driving through with the Caterpillar equipment on the back. Those things see some really difficult environments: salt, dirt, rocks, all that chipping going on of paint. What happens when you chip paint, right? You've got exposed areas of metal, right? With water, and we live in Florida especially, so you got salt in the air and those kind of things that basically degrade the actual trailer itself, weakening it extended periods of time. So how can we connect that emotional brand, right? The emotion with the brand in terms of, well, what happens if the trailer busts, right? That would be terrible. What happens to that whole project that gets thrown off in terms of the build time? Guess who gets blamed, right? Or just how it looks, right? If the trailer's rusted and things like that, when it shows up on the job site, it looks bad, right? So what does that mean for everyone else involved in that project as the build teams kind of come in and out? Do you want to work with a company kind of that has that kind of product that's actually literally falling apart? Or would you rather have a product that you can be proud of when it pulls out onto the build site? It looks like it's there for business, right? So those are the kind of things that really matter in terms of the emotional connection with your target customer. When you do this right, okay, it basically comes back to trust. It establishes that trust that we're all kind of looking for when we purchase. And again, whether it's a B2B or B2C, it doesn't really matter. The end result is hopefully that the product works and functions beautifully. Right? So that's kind of the goal. And this includes not just, for example, like the trailer example, right? It's not just the trailer itself, but it's the wheels, the braking systems, all of that stuff works wonderfully. And if you were a vendor or supplier for that truck company, you want that product, that product, which is integrated into the overall customer product, to be awesome too. And that's one of the advantages in B2B manufacturing is if you're doing this right? If you're sourcing your vendors properly, if you're establishing the great partnerships, right? Where you're all, let's say, premium brand kind of situations, or that quality is there, or the pricing is even there. It doesn't always have to be top luxury type brand stuff going on. It can actually be just real strong value, right? Associated with it, or pricing. Those are all brand attributes. But if you bring those things together and the end result is good, everyone benefits from that, right? So I'm thinking in terms of, let's say, like the wedding planner, right? That she goes and has like the budget and things like that. She knows all of the value price brands on up to the middle ones, to the high level premiums, and then even the elite, right? So she's going to be working through all those vendors, and she knows what works best, and she knows what the value of the client is, so that she can deliver that best product for them. In this case, it'd be a service. Very successful wedding, matches budget, everyone has a great time, all that fun stuff. So that's a tremendous value if you can do that. And what that means then is if you do those, you increase demand, you can also then increase higher price. You can increase prices typically. And the reason why you do that is because that law of supply and demand kind of kick in. As those prices, as production increases, right, your pricing can go up and your production costs go down, right? So the benefit really is to the customer this great product that meets their needs, solves their problems, and addresses their pain. And what happens is if you do this right, you get earned press. It's like press coverage. Customers are talking. In fact, you get introduced to customers that may not have heard about you before. And all of a sudden, your brand starts getting connected with those things that you wanted it connected with before, right, at the onset. So how do you go about actually doing this? Oh, and one more thing, too. When you do that, if you are the end result deliverer of product, okay, you get the opportunity to go ahead and negotiate better pricing, negotiate more strong efforts on behalf of your company because those brand values are there. And you've been able to establish this independent of the other brand or partnerships that you're actually working with. So it lifts, really lifts all boats, right? The rising tide. So really a great aspect of doing this right. Strategy to improve. First of all, you have to assess your starting point again. This goes back to your business plan, but you need to go look at the actual data too. There's a whole bunch of customer data. Your customers have been telling you if they like you, if they don't like you, what they like in terms of your product or service mix. They've been telling you this whole time. So go back and look at how those achievements, the business achievements that you've been able to make, have really aligned with the company goals on the front end, right? Did they match up, right? Are you on track, or are they stagnated, right? Identify which strategies are working or not working. Are there changes that are necessary in that strategy? So that's the first thing. Assess that starting point. In fact, we can probably write these out. How many do we have? 2. Okay, so let's just do starting point, right? So starting point. I'm just going to abbreviate there. Okay, so number 2. That was 1. Number 2, researching the competition. Folks, you need to have an honest look. This is one of the biggest advantage to working with a consultancy firm like ours or an agency that does market planning. Look, researching the competition is tough. You've been through a lot. You have an inside view of those things, which is great. Typically, can you guys see? Okay. So typically, we have 3 different, we call them circles, right? So the 3-legged stool, one is the executive drivers of the company. So that's one. That's what's going on in your heads as the top brass of the company or the strategic drivers there. The second leg of that stool is going to be the competitive analysis, right? Your competitors. Okay. So actually looking at your competitors. In fact, when we do this, guys, we actually have, it's really complicated, right? Just a big Excel spreadsheet with usually companies on that left-hand side kind of going down, including yours. And then across that top, think about a worksheet, right? So the competitors and yourself on that left, the rows, and then across the top, across the columns, we have different things that need to be considering, like, number of years in business, affiliations, awards, unique value proposition, tagline, products and services, all these things that are important. And then basically, once we go through that, we can actually start highlighting the things that are unique about those specific companies. And it gives us a really good perspective in terms of the competition, what's actually going on with each of those competitors. You can kind of see it mapped out. The third one is the customer. In this case, it could be a B2B or a B2C customer. But basically, they have things that when they buy, right, there's target customers in this. They buy for certain reasons. They have certain away kind of elements in terms of why they don't buy. So they have price points, they have considerations, they have media usage patterns, but basically trying to figure out who that target customer is. And basically that's the 3-legged stool we use. This one right here is that competition. You guys may need some outside help with that. And I would strongly recommend, even if it's kind of a short, assessment of some kind, let's say annually or whatever it is, that's something that's tremendous value. Okay, so genuinely research the competition. Genuinely pretend you're somebody else, like pretend you're one of your customers, preferably your top customers in terms of the models, and then get to work in terms of mapping that stuff out. So that would be number 2. So what did I just say? So it's competition. So it's researching the competition. Okay. Number 3, identify your targets, right? So this is that target demographic. Make sure they're aligned with what you believe. You may have had a market plan done. We see this often. If you even have a marketing persona, call them marketing personas, but a marketing profile. Some companies call them marketing profiles. Look, everybody that touches a client should be very, very familiar with who your customers are. And that means like that, I should probably just post it and share with, but usually when you do a marketing persona, right, you may have 2 or 3, you may even have 1, I don't even know. But usually it's no more than like 5, okay, of your best customers. You can usually pawn them off in like 3 different kind of customer profiles. Your salespeople should have that sitting up on their cube wall so you can actually see who that best customer is, right? What are his or her needs? What does she look like? What does she drive? What kind of education does she have? What kind of like motivation points are there? Why doesn't she buy? What are some of her apprehensions? In a 1-page document that really kind of helps do that, right? So who is that target customer? The question that really kind of comes out, and it just made mention of it, who is your best customer and why? When you look back on your last year in terms of sales and marketing, go look at who your best customers are. Try to identify what that profile looks like, okay? You may create a market plan around that. You can ask your sales teams. This is one of those tremendous resources. And then you can look at compensation, by the way. If you understand who your target market is, who your best customer is, you'll often, when you assess how you're incentivizing your salespeople, you'll find that those two often are kind of misaligned a little bit, right? So you have the opportunity to kind of bring them back in line. One of the things that we have implemented several times before is customer surveys. So customer surveys for the customer, and where you're actually physically calling customers that you currently have. They're your best customer. Why do you continue to work with us? All that fun stuff. But also customers that may not be with you anymore. Or when you look at your sales data over the last, let's say, 5 years, you go, okay, well, they order every year, and then let's say year 3 they dropped off, and then we haven't heard back from them. Well, give them a call, find out. There was a company we're working with that was a trade show company in Ohio, trade show booth design company, and literally, guys, it was insane. All they needed to do, the reason why people didn't buy from them, you ready? They didn't ask. Literally, they could have increased sales by over 30% if they just asked their customers. That's it. They just needed to ask. So, in fact, I think it was actually higher than that. I don't think it was 30%. I think it was like 41%. So just asking for the business. In this case here, calling your customers up, finding out why didn't you continue to buy from us? And do it in a way that's trying to find information and be kind with that. So identify that target. Again, if you probably have a couple of different target groups in there. But again, you can assess that by talking to your salespeople, looking at your actual sales over that last 12 months, or even longer than that. Really, you can actually spot trends and things like that. Speaking of trends. If you have, and it's kind of involved with that. So you could use trends.google.com. Let's say you find certain like product groups or categories or characteristics that you're seeing in your data in terms of their customer buying patterns. Just because you're going gangbusters into up 10, 15, 20% doesn't necessarily mean that the market's going that way. So just a quick little tip for you guys. Vice versa. You might be up 10%, but the last 5 years, let's say product has gone up 300% searches for this stuff. You can use trends.google.com, look at those specific key terms or products and things like that, and kind of see where you're at in terms of the market. And with trends.google.com, what's nice about too is you can actually change the location, right? The geography size, whether it's the United States, whether it's a state or region. You can kind of get an idea as to how well you're doing compared to potentially the marketplace. Again, you may be going down in a certain area, but the market is demanding more of that stuff. So it's helpful to know that information, especially as you consider your target market and what they care about. So creating a strong brand, that's the next one. Create, we'll do strong brand. Okay, so yes. So we're at number 4 here. Consider what your logo design and your tagline communicate to your clients. Okay, Look, everyone's entitled to their opinion. This is one of the reasons why you do a market plan with an agency, because we actually get you to sign off on the data. Like, we will do these three-legged stools, right? And tests, like, we'll have these recommendations at the end. We'll say our brand represents these kind of things, and we'll bullet it out. And then we make, in many cases, if we've sniffed out the fact that there's going to be dissension or frustration, or people are not on the same page, literally we will make the executive team sign that document before we go to logo brand design. And the reason why is because we want 30 days later, when we propose these three different brand types, and you have Mark, who is in, IT, who says, I don't like the color blue, or I think that line's too thick, or we didn't use this word. We have some data to substantiate, and we've just done this market plan. We've agreed upon to these set terms, and we can challenge. Now, ultimately, it's the decision of the company, but we believe that facts really matter. And if we all agree to these things being the case in terms of communicating brand essence and all that stuff, we have something that we all agree to, and we should be consistent with that, right? So, very important tip there. Let's see. Just whether your brand is going to be formal, informal, can be fun, it can be serious, it can be safe, secure. Reds have certain, perceptions, blues, greens, and how they're dark or bright. If you have textures, all of those things are things you need to be considering with your brand in terms of what they're actually communicating. But at the end of the day, it's about that brand communicates the unique value proposition that your company represents. Okay, what it feels like, what it sniffs like, what it smells like. Okay, brands are recognized. By the way, they're not read. A lot of people are like, can I get this word in here? And you go, you know what? Not important to actually put the word in there. It's more important in many cases to let the brand feel like what you need to be talking about, right? And that includes scripting of fonts. That includes boldness of fonts. That includes spacing of characters. That includes, again, texture and different designs that are integrated into the actual logo. So, again, things to think about. I would strongly recommend you actually do get a market plan kind of set up for a lot of this stuff. When we talk about market plan too, not only is it the who, what, when, where, why, but it's also the how. So now that you're advertising, now that you've got this brand, within that brand, there's also considerations for, right, the promotion of it, right, the distribution of that brand in terms of your target customer. That's why it all kind of fits together, guys. It's not separate, like individual, like processes and chunks. It really is a strategy, but it's based upon knowing all these other things. Okay. Yes, they communicate the characteristics of the brand. So that is creating a strong brand. Number 5 is, and this is the one I was editing actually earlier. I had just optimizing the website. I'm like, yeah, it's more than that. It's about the inbound strategy. Okay. And it includes optimizing of the website, because so many, and this is the reason why, because a lot of times we end up seeing this optimization of the website really being kind of like a thought, actually not even really a thought, a consideration maybe on the front end, and then it just completely disappears. But this is the connection point for all of your stuff, right? So when we talk about optimizing a website or even the inbound strategy, we need to know who we're targeting. We need to know what they care about. We need to know what makes us different in terms of the company. We need to know our keywords, right? Which interest points or concepts are most important to our target audience, that we can build stuff and promote to that kind of understanding. We need to address their pain, right, in those keywords. Again, we'll talk about crafting a page here in just a minute. We need to know our call to actions. Just because this is brand does not mean we forget to ask for the business. And we actually just have to freaking get to work. So many of these are, one of the reasons why I prefer working with small and medium-sized businesses is because the decision-making funnel tends to be a little bit smaller. I don't have like 5 different internal groups and then compliance in 2 different areas in order to get anything done. You need to get the work done. Okay. So, we try to accelerate that best we can with a lot of our larger clients, but it really is important to get the work done in a timely, quick, expeditious fashion and then optimize it, right? Because then you get an idea as to what's working, what's not. You should fix the things that aren't working. You should always do that. So all of this to say, set the inbound strategy. All that comes from an understanding of who, what, when, where, why, and how in terms of the brand, and then how to get more of them. Because remember, in B2B, even your sales teams, let's say it's referrals and word of mouth, that's great, or even an aggressive sales team, you still have promotion that's occurring some way, shape, or form. Those people are going to be coming into the website, right? And you need to do something with them. Or if they come in, let's say even not even to the website, let's say they come in on, let's say LinkedIn, for example, because your salespeople are being proactive and know who their target audience is and actually promoting and going to find people actively on LinkedIn that fit that profile. Again, that profile came up earlier, right? Then they're interested there in LinkedIn. Can you actually start augmenting some of that and using, drip campaigns and things like that to reach that, especially if they've given you the signal that they've gone to your website now. And now you can actually start pushing them some information that's helpful based almost exclusively on two things, what they care about and your unique value proposition, right? So getting to work is really, really, really important. And then optimizing that website as a sales tool, right, for conversion. So again, you may have 3 or 4 different marketing personas. You identify where the pains are, which might be multiple pains per persona. And because you're proactive, you're actively seeking out individuals in that through using paid search or through LinkedIn advertising or targeting different discussion groups or whatever the case may be, and then filtering that through into the website and then doing something with it. Okay. So that's exceedingly important and effective. The 6th thing I want to talk about is hiring pros. Do what you're good at. Oh yeah, do what you're good at. I spent time I was presenting at a conference on Saturday. We were talking about Google and the changes that were going on at Google, and we were talking to business owners really. So the business owners really telling them, guys, you don't need to focus on all the technical inner workings of SEO, for example, but you do need to understand some of these basic new tools that Google has in terms of vitals of site health and all this fun stuff. So you need to know where it's at. You need to understand that those dashboards are available for you to go look at. And then you need to be directing your teams, whether we're trying to suggest they don't do it themselves, but to understand what they can be filtering off in IT or their graphic design team or whatever, so that the work gets done. But ultimately, they're still accountable for that stuff. So if their site speed sucks, it's their fault. At the end of the day, it's their fault. And they need to be one of the biggest drivers to get their teams working in the right direction. Okay. So if you don't know what that stuff is, reach out to me. I'll help you. But hire professionals that know how to do this stuff. I think I've shared this story with you before. When we moved to Florida from Ohio, we didn't have the intense sun that Ohio was like gray. Like I think it was like sunny, like 61 days a year, like we're from in Cleveland area. It's the reverse of that in Florida. So everyone tints their windows. Moved down like, oh man, it's so hot. You need to get those windows tinted. So I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos. I'm like, this is a piece of cake. Certainly you can do this. No problem, right? Okay, so I bought the best window tint I could find, right? I think I spent like $60, $65 on it, right? So I did it, spent several hours on a Saturday getting really frustrated because the thing is like, I'm trying to cut it in the glass and it's falling on my face. It's not sticking up there. I followed the instructions. I had the squeegee trying to get the bubbles up. I actually didn't even get that far with the bubbles. It just kept falling on me. It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I gave that up. A couple months later, I'm like, I'm going to give it another shot. Certainly, it's easy enough. I'm smarter. I've tried to do it once before. I can do it again. The exact same thing happened, folks. The exact same thing happened. I'm like, you know what? That's like the tightrope walker who makes it look really easy. It's the same exact thing in this case. Now, some of you might be more specialized in that and able to do that, which is great. Look, I went to Toyota when I had the service done for the car. They got that taken care of. The latest car I had, it was already installed, so I didn't have to worry about that. So at the end of the day, guys, I have to tell you, just hire professionals. You're going to just experience a much faster, higher ROI, return on investment. You're going to experience higher accountability in terms of the actual performance, assuming you've set, again, some of those things that are important to you because you've done this. Your agency should be working with you to say, these are the things, this is the needle, right? These are the dashboard elements that I need to see that allow me to continue to work with you because you're tracking phone calls, you're tracking clicks, you're tracking inbound lead conversions, and you know what that looks like. Some of you may even be providing your agency with your actual sales data, and they're querying that stuff together, and they know what's actually dropped in the bucket. We're using technology or export of whatever, sales data, customer data, whatever. So you're going to get that at a much lower cost too, generally. You don't have to worry about training people. You don't have to worry about training people and having those people leave for your competitors or some other place. You don't have to worry about these tools and licenses, which some of them are several $1,000s a month in terms of just doing the job beyond anything. So let's see what else. Insurance, benefits, all that fun stuff. Training, going to a conference in September up in Cleveland, actually, for the content marketing world. Great one. But that's where, again, that blessing gets put off on all of our clients then. You don't have to send somebody to that event and pay that exorbitant fee to get in there and listen to all these things and have them only work on one segment of the business. You get the benefit of that. Plus, and again, this is the benefit of working across, they get to see a whole bunch of other clients, right? So we've seen, gosh, pretty much any vertical you can possibly name. We've seen a lot of similarities. So we can see what's impacting this specific industry right now is going to impact this one, okay? Like, for example, Google's changed their algorithms for reviews. Well, we see certain areas of certain ranking signals affecting certain industries. And like, you know what? We're going to see this in this other service industry, let's say air conditioning, in the next couple months. It's not there now, but we're going to see it real soon. So we might as well start moving the ball in that direction, guys, for all of these areas, to be quite frank with you. So how do we do that, right? So very important. The last thing I want to mention, and I know it's small and I know it's way down here, but it's tracking, and we've kind of mentioned already, and optimization. You should be looking at this on a regular basis. Now, I'm going to caution you with the brand marketing thing. There are companies out there that do this. Either they never change their brand or they change it like every other week. And they confuse the living crap out of their customers, okay? Look, if you've earned those customers and you've been building your brand for a long period of time, this is exceedingly important. I was working on an account with Budget when Sendent acquired them. It was a huge process, guys. When General Motors acquired Saab, same exact thing, two brands selling independent, but there's ways of announcing that stuff. These are complicated deals, okay? If you've invested in your brand, don't be changing it overnight. It's not a wise decision. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to spend a fortune in doing it, but what it does mean is you have to be strategic in that, right? But all of that comes to say is that when you do this, looking at your tracking and optimization all the time on a regular basis, looking at how you're maybe not changing the brand design logo, but you're changing because your customers are changing, your competitors are changing, your technologies are changing. So it's important to do this stuff on a regular basis, guys. So again, we've got, I know your starting point, look at your competition, identify your target, create a strong brand, inbound strategy and optimization with the website, hiring pros to do the work, and then tracking and optimization on a regular basis. So again, you're looking at the right things all the time and you're measuring those to the performance, okay? So appreciate your time this morning. We wrapped it up in 34 minutes, which isn't too bad. If you guys have any additional questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out. Next week's topic we will actually be talking about those rankings things that I just did the presentation for on Saturday. So if ranking is important to you and you are a business owner or top brass of company, you definitely need to be looking at that. So we will see you next week with that. Please subscribe. You can see other videos we've done before at marketingwebcast.live. You can even sign up there to become part of that sign-up sheet, the newsletter. I promise not to spam you, but there's some really great tips there. Also at marketingwebcast.live, all of the previous videos we've done, anything from video production to rankings to LinkedIn, strategic targeting that way, a whole bunch of really great things there. So feel free to subscribe to the channel you're seeing right now. Go ahead to marketingwebcast.live and go ahead and sign up. That would be great. And we will see you guys next week. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.